Policeman throws pepper spray on an elderly black woman without knowing she was the chief's wife. On a hot December afternoon in Sao Paulo, on the busy Avenida Paulista, Dona Beatriz, an elegant 65-year-old black woman, was waiting for her bus at the bus stop. Her gray hair was neatly arranged in a bun, and despite the heat, she maintained the dignified posture she had developed over her 30 years as a university professor. In their hands, grocery bags carried the ingredients for a special dinner. Suddenly, a police car made a sudden maneuver, parking intimidatingly next to the bus stop. "Another one of those," muttered Ricardo, the police officer at the wheel, to his partner, who seemed uncomfortable with the situation. Without waiting for a response, Ricardo got out of the car, holding the pepper spray in his firm hand. His impeccable uniform contrasted with the look of contempt on his face. Dona Beatriz noticed the hostile approach and tried to remain calm. In a firm voice, he asked, "Can I help you, police officer?" As she spoke, passers-by began to watch the scene with concern. But Ricardo, without hesitation, fired the pepper spray directly at Dona Beatriz's face. She fell to the ground, suffocating and struggling to breathe as her bag spilled onto the hot asphalt. All around, people began to scream, horrified by what they saw. Marina, a lawyer who was nearby, approached, recording the scene with her cell phone and shouting, "This is abuse of authority. She's an elderly woman, for God's sake." Other passers-by also took out their cell phones, turning the scene into a spectacle of cruelty with the potential to go viral. It was at that moment that Dona Beatriz's cell phone, lying among the scattered purchases, began to ring. The photo of Colonel Jose shone on the screen. Would society tolerate actions like this? The consequences of that day would forever change not only Ricardo's life, but also that of the entire corporation. What no one expected was that Dona Beatriz, even after all the humiliation suffered, would play a fundamental role in a transformation much greater than simple revenge. Is there forgiveness for acts of prejudice, or do some actions deserve consequences that are too severe to be forgiven? Dona Beatriz was not an ordinary woman. With a PhD in sociology, she had dedicated her career to the study of structural racism and the fight for equality. After the incident, his name would be linked to an unprecedented effort to humanize the corporation and combat institutional racism. His appointment to lead these changes, however, would not please everyone, especially the more conservative group of officers, of which Ricardo Mendes was a staunch supporter. Ricardo came from a traditional family of police officers. His father, a retired police officer, had raised him with outdated and prejudiced values. Despite multiple accusations of abuse of authority, Ricardo had always escaped serious punishment thanks to his family connections within the corporation. Dona Beatriz's work, however, focused precisely on cases of police violence against minorities, which made her a controversial figure among those who feared structural changes. The neighborhood where the incident took place was known for its social contrast. On one side, executives in expensive suits walking in and out of mirrored buildings. On the other, workers returning home after long days. It was in this scenario of inequality that Ricardo often carried out his selective approaches. That afternoon, while Dona Beatriz was still recovering from the attack, Colonel Santos was participating in an important meeting. Dona Beatriz was taken to the hospital, where doctors noticed that, in addition to the effects of the pepper spray, she had symptoms of severe anxiety. Decades dedicated to studying racism had not prepared her to be a victim of such explicit violence. Meanwhile, Ricardo, still at the scene of the incident, began to feel the weight of his actions. For the first time in his career, his last name and family connections might not be enough to free him from the consequences. Fear was beginning to replace his usual arrogance. In command of the corporation, an assistant burst into the meeting room, pale. Within seconds, Colonel Santos's expression changed when he saw the video of the incident projected on the screen. The silence that followed was deafening. Recognizing his wife lying on the ground, the colonel's first impulse was to run away, but years of military training made him maintain his composure, at least outwardly. "Gentlemen, we have a critical situation," he announced, his voice controlled although the growing fury was noticeable. The room remained completely silent as the video continued to be shown, and everyone present understood that this was a situation that would change the direction of the corporation forever. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Donna Beatriz desperately tried to activate her connections. Ricardo, on the other hand, called his father, the retired police chief, who, for the first time, didn't have a solution ready. "Son, you attacked Colonel Santos's wife. Even I can't protect you this time," he said with a resigned tone. The case was leaked to the press in a matter of hours. The headlines were merciless. "Police officer attacks superior's wife in racist act." "PM attacks sociology doctor in brutal approach." "Racism in the PM, until when?" Carlos, a rookie police officer, was summoned to the Internal Affairs Department and heard rumors that Donna Beatriz had declared, "I don't want personal revenge. I want to use this to drive real change." Meanwhile, human rights groups organized protests in front of the PM's command. The hashtag #JusticeByDonnaBeatriz. It was already a trending topic on social media, and the case was becoming a symbol of the fight against institutional racism. Ricardo was called to testify. On the way to the Internal Affairs Department, he began to receive messages from other police officers with a similar history of violence. They offered support, money for lawyers, and even a plan to escape. The atmosphere within the PM was boiling. On one side, conservative police officers defended Ricardo, claiming that he was just doing his job. On the other, a new generation inspired by the leadership of Colonel Santos demanded profound changes. Even though she was still recovering, Donna Beatriz began to receive invitations to speak about her experience. His story catalyzed a national debate about racism and police violence. Zulaida, a black woman, Carlos's mother, revealed during an interview, "My son joined the police wanting to make a difference. But every day that passes, I see fear in his eyes, fear of becoming like others or of being persecuted for being different." At the same time, Camila, Ricardo's wife, an upper-middle-class white woman, began to question her entire life with her husband. She remembered the times he came home boasting about putting order in the street and how he always ignored the clear signs of his prejudice. Marina, the activist lawyer, discovered that investigative journalist Deborah Reese had started receiving anonymous complaints about other cases of police violence involving Ricardo. The complaints came from within the corporation itself, indicating that not all police officers were complicit in the system. Carlos, now seen as a traitor by some colleagues, found unexpected support from a group of young officers who also secretly wanted change in the institution. They began meeting after hours to discuss reforms. Ricardo's father, the retired police chief, began to see himself as part of the problem and reflected on the outdated values he had passed on to his son. Black police officers, who suffered racism in silence within the corporation, began to speak out, sharing their own experiences. Marina also discovered that Ricardo's previous partner had requested a transfer after reporting his violent conduct, but was labeled as problematic and relegated to administrative duties. She began to articulate her reinstatement to active duty. The story reached the ears of a black state deputy who began drafting a bill aimed at public security reform. The highlight of the case was an extraordinary meeting called by the General Command of the Military Police. In the meeting room, the tension was palpable. Colonel Santos, Donna Beatriz, recently released from the hospital, Ricardo, Carlos, and representatives from various spheres of public security and civil society were present. Everyone knew that the decisions made that day could redefine the future of the corporation and the relationship between the police and society. Ricardo, visibly downcast, sat in a corner of the room, avoiding looking directly at anyone. Carlos, at his side, stood erect, showing determination. Dona Beatriz, with her unshakable dignity, occupied the center of the room next to her husband, Colonel Santos. The meeting began with a firm statement from the colonel. A police officer's problem is a reflection of a society and institutions that need to change. Dona Beatriz then presented her proposal, a comprehensive re-education and racial awareness program for the entire police force, starting with the highest-ranking officers. She concluded with an unexpected request. "And I want Police Officer Ricardo to be the first to go through this program." The room fell silent. Ricardo, who expected to be summarily expelled, looked at Dona Beatriz in disbelief. It was then that Carlos asked to speak, but before he could speak, Camila, Ricardo's wife, entered the room abruptly. "I also have something to say," she demanded, visibly shaken. Camila made a shocking revelation. She had found a message group on Ricardo's cell phone where several police officers shared discriminatory approach tactics and discussed ways to cover up cases of violence. "I always closed my eyes, but I can't anymore. This has to end," she said, with tears in her eyes. The atmosphere in the room became chaotic. Some officials tried to break up the meeting while others demanded immediate investigations. That was when Ricardo, with a trembling voice, said, I accept the program, and I will collaborate with everything I know." At this time, Deborah Race, the journalist who had gained access to the meeting, broadcast everything live on her social networks. Within minutes, the hashtag #ChangeNAPM went viral. The meeting ended with the announcement of a task force to implement immediate changes in the corporation, led by Dona Beatriz, Carlos, and other progressive members. The impact would expand throughout society. Ricardo began the racial re-education program under intense public scrutiny. The first few weeks were marked by resistance and denial, but gradually he began to understand the impact of his actions. In a particularly intense session, Ricardo finally blurted out, "I'd never really stopped to think about the damage I was causing. I feel embarrassed." Dona Beatriz, leading the program, saw an opportunity at this moment. Ricardo was beginning to show real signs of change. Carlos, in turn, faced daily threats from colleagues dissatisfied with his reformist stance. His worried mother even begged him to leave the police. "Mom, this is exactly why I need to stay," he said, "so that other children don't have mothers living with this fear." Deborah Race continued her investigations and exposed a network of corruption and abuse of power that went far beyond Ricardo. His reporting resulted in the dismissal of several high-ranking officers and the restructuring of entire departments. In civil society, Dona Beatriz's story catalyzed change. In an interview, she stated, "People are finally feeling like they can talk." Camila, Ricardo's wife, faced her own journey of self-discovery. She joined a support group for family members of police officers where she shared, "It's not easy to admit that the person you love has done terrible things, but it is necessary so that we can grow together." The racial re-education program began to expand beyond the police, being adopted by other public and private institutions. Colonel Santos declared, "We want to build a strong, reliable, and effective police force." Meanwhile, Ricardo continued in the re-education program. In a private meeting with Dona Beatriz, he revealed, "I want to do more, not just go through the program, but help implement it for others." Dona Beatriz evaluated him carefully before responding, "Ricardo, the road to redemption is long, but if you're really committed, there's a lot of work to be done." The program led by Dona Beatriz began to be implemented in police corporations in several states. She knew, however, that true change would require more than training. It was necessary to transform the institutional and social culture that perpetuated racism. The story of Ricardo, Carlos, Camila, and Dona Beatriz became a symbol of struggle, pain, and, above all, hope for a better and fairer future. At a national conference on public security, Dona Beatriz surprised everyone by inviting Ricardo to speak alongside her. Real transformation, she said, is not just punishing mistakes, but showing that change is possible. Ricardo, visibly nervous, took the stage. His transformation was evident, not only in his words but also in his posture. He shared his learning journey and lessons learned from his mistakes. As part of significant structural changes to the military police, Ricardo helped implement a new performance evaluation system. This system included metrics for community engagement and peaceful conflict resolution. Although initially met with skepticism, the program began to show promising results, notably reducing incidents of police violence. Carlos, the young police officer who had reported the abuse, became a mentor to new recruits. He developed a conscious policing program that emphasized empathy, communication, and de-escalation of tense situations. A symbolic milestone in this transformation occurred when a young black man confronted a police officer about a traumatic approach he had suffered. The police officer, trained in the new program, did not defend himself but listened attentively. "I'm sorry for what you went through," said the officer with genuine empathy. "I'm here to learn how to do better." Camila, Ricardo's wife, also found a new purpose. She began leading support groups for police families, helping them navigate the emotional and ethical complexities of police work. "We cannot change the past, but we can build a better future," she said in one of the meetings. Despite all the progress, Dona Beatriz still struggled with the trauma of the attack. In a therapy session, she finally admitted, "Sometimes, when I see a police car, I still feel scared. But then I remember all the work we're doing, and that fear turns to hope." The racial re-education program expanded beyond the police, reaching schools, businesses, and other public institutions. At a high school in Sao Paulo, a pilot project called Racial Awareness Week produced inspiring results, demonstrating the impact of raising awareness from an early age. It was undeniable that a profound transformation was underway. The incident that began with an act of prejudice had become the catalyst for a revolution of consciousness and action. Dona Beatriz, reflecting on everything that had happened, shared with Colonel Santos, "We still have a long way to go, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like we're really making progress." A year after the initial incident, Sao Paulo was preparing for an unprecedented event, the first national forum on racial justice and public security. Amid distrust and resistance from some sectors, Dona Beatriz, now a national figure in the fight against institutional racism, worked tirelessly behind the scenes. She knew the forum's success could catalyze change across the country, but she was also aware of the risks. "We are about to challenge decades of entrenched practices," Dona Beatriz confided to Colonel Santos. "We need to be prepared for resistance." Colonel Santos, in turn, faced his own challenge. A group of high-ranking officers had expressed discontent with the decision to give Ricardo such a prominent platform. "He shouldn't be here representing the corporation," they argued. Carlos, now leader of the community policing program, defended the decision. Ricardo's journey is a powerful testimony that change is possible. Your voice is crucial right now. Meanwhile, journalist Deborah Reis, who was preparing special coverage of the event, discovered worrying information. Extremist groups were planning violent protests to disrupt the forum. She immediately alerted the authorities and the organizing team. Marina, the lawyer who had been following the case from the beginning, also worked to ensure that the efforts were not in vain. Colonel Santos reinforced security around Dona Beatriz and the other main participants, but the concern was evident on his face. Ricardo, preparing for his speech, faced his own demons. The prospect of speaking publicly about his past and his transformation made him anxious. In a moment of doubt, he called Camila. "What if I'm not the right person to do this?" Camila, who had become a strong ally in the fight for change, encouraged him. "You are living proof that change is possible. Your story can inspire others." On the day of the forum, the event brought together a diverse audience: police officers, activists, academics, and members of civil society, many meeting face-to-face for the first time outside of conflict situations. When Dona Beatriz took the stage to open the event, silence fell on the audience. She took a deep breath and began. "Today, we are not just discussing policies or procedures. We are here to reimagine the very fabric of our society." The National Police Reform and Racial Equality Forum was about to begin, symbolizing the climax of a journey of transformation. But tensions exploded when a group of extremist protesters tried to storm the event, accusing him of undermining the police. Colonel Santos and his security team immediately sprung into action, but the situation quickly spiraled out of control. In the midst of the confusion, an armed protester advanced towards the stage. It was at that moment that Ricardo, without hesitation, placed himself between the attacker and Dona Beatriz. "No more violence," he shouted, holding the microphone still open. Silence fell over the crowd. The protester, surprised by Ricardo's action, stopped. Taking advantage of the moment, Dona Beatriz firmly declared, "This is the moment of choice for all of us. We can continue on the path of fear and division, or we can choose the courage to change, to unite." Visibly shaken, the protester lowered his weapon. Ricardo's gesture and Dona Beatriz's words created a moment of solidarity that no one could have predicted a year earlier. Security guards detained the protester without violence, following new de-escalation protocols. Carlos, who was in the audience, went up to the stage and took the microphone. "I was a rookie when I witnessed the incident that brought us here. But today, we're not just talking about what happened to me or Dona Beatriz. We're talking about all of us, about how we can turn our stories into hope. Who would like to share their story, their fears, their hopes?" What followed was an emotional and raw session of testimony. Police officers shared their challenges and fears. Community members recounted their experiences of discrimination and abuse. Tears were shed, apologies were offered, and most importantly, people who once saw each other as adversaries began to see each other as human beings with shared concerns and dreams. Inspired by the moment, Carlos proposed, "Let's build our solutions together, in real time." The proposal was received with a thunderous ovation. Dona Beatriz, moved, made the final considerations. "A year ago, I was the victim of an act of violence and prejudice. Today, I am here, not as a victim, but as an agent of change. And I'm not alone. Each of you here is an agent of change. What happened today proves that transformation is not only possible, it is happening now, through us." When the session finally ended, it was already past midnight. As the sun rose in Sao Paulo, it was clear to everyone present that something profound had changed. The forum was no longer just an event, but the birth of a new movement, a new way of addressing society's deepest challenges. Months after the dramatic National Forum for Police Reform and Racial Equality, the impacts of that historic event were visible throughout Brazil. In Sao Paulo, Dona Beatriz's racial re-education program had been adopted as official policy. His story, once marked by suffering, now led a national program of police reform. Dona Beatriz traveled the country, sharing her experience and implementing changes. His genuine commitment to transformation had become a powerful example of how lives and institutions could be renewed. Carlos, the young police officer who had reported the abuse, was promoted to a leadership position in the PM's new Community Relations Department. His conscious policing program became a national reference and was constantly requested for training and lectures. But perhaps the most profound change has occurred in communities. Dialogue groups between police officers and residents, inspired by the spontaneous moment of the forum, had spread across the country. These difficult but necessary conversations were slowly rebuilding trust between the police and the communities they served. Dona Beatriz, reflecting on the journey of the last year and a half, wrote in her diary, "When I was attacked that day, I thought it was the end, but in fact, it was the beginning of something much bigger." As other cities and states began to adopt São Paulo's pioneering reforms, it became clear that Brazil was embarking on a new era of policing and race relations. An era built not on fear and division, but on dialogue, understanding, and a shared commitment to justice for all. Years later, in a square in São Paulo, a statue was unveiled. It portrayed Dona Beatriz and Ricardo holding hands, symbolizing the country's journey of transformation. The plaque next to the statue read, "Change begins with each one of us. Dialogue, understanding, and acting. These are the foundations of a more just society." The event was widely publicized, and a video narrating the journey ended with a message: "Don't stand still." Share this video. Start difficult but necessary conversations in your community. Change starts with each one of us. If you've watched this far, comment, "I watched until the end," to show your support. Together, we can make a difference. This story shows us that, even in the darkest moments, the courage to face the truth and the commitment to change can transform not just individuals, but entire societies. Dona Beatriz, Carlos, Ricardo, and so many others prove that the path to transformation is difficult but necessary. True change requires dialogue, empathy, and above all, joint action. Every step they take is an invitation for all of us to also become agents of change in our own communities. May this journey inspire reflections and attitudes that build a more fair and egalitarian future. If this story touched you in any way, be sure to support this channel. Subscribe now, activate the bell to receive notifications, and leave your like on this video. Share with your friends and family. These conversations are important and need to reach as many people as possible. And don't stop here. Click on the suggested video on the final screen to continue exploring relevant topics like this. Together, we can make a difference and build a more humane and supportive world. Until the next video.